What if one night a demon came to you in your deepest moment of loneliness and told you, this life, as you now live it, you will have to live it again, over and over, nothing will be new. Every joy, every pain, every thought, every moment will return to you in the exact same order, in the exact same way. What would you do? Would you despair and curse your own destiny? Or have you perhaps lived a single tremendous moment worth repeating your whole life over and over again? The words that you just heard come from the aphorism number 341 of the Nietzsche's masterpiece The Gay Science. What Nietzsche is trying to express in this very existential and dramatical way is his idea of the so-called eternal return, or in the original German, die ewige Wiederkunft. In this video, we will not only explore the more common existential perspective of this theory, but most importantly, we will disclose the deep conceptual layer behind it that has to do with metaphysics. The eternal return is a philosophical concept that suggests all events in the universe will recur infinitely in the exact same way as they have occurred before. Although Nietzsche presents this concept from an original perspective, this theory has actually very ancient historical and philosophical traditions. I'm going to mention 3 of these sources that are fundamental to understand Nietzsche's idea. The Hinduism and Buddhism, which base their world perspective and moral conduct on the concept of samsara. Samsara, which literally means to flow together, is a doctrine that is symbolically presented as a wheel, because it's based on the idea that life advances in a cycle through continuous alternating of birth, death, and rebirth. The Stoicism. The ancient Greek Stoics envisioned a universe that would be destroyed and reborn repeatedly through a process called eternal conflagration. Even the famous Roman Stoic Seneca mentioned this idea in his letters. Things that vanish from our sight are merely stored away in the natural world. They cease to be, but they do not perish. The day will come again that will return us to the light. The school of Pythagoras. As you may know, Pythagoras was a famous mathematician that grounded his own school of thought. Their idea of cycle is based on the relationship between finite and infinite. While the finite represented order and measure, the infinite symbolized chaos and movement. The cosmic cycle in this picture embodied the dynamic balance between these two principles. They believed that, at the end of each cycle, not only natural phenomena but also the same individuals, actions, and even words would recur in the same precise way. Nietzsche's articulation of the eternal return is unique because he frames it first of all as a psychological and existential test. As we saw from the aphorism number 341 of The Gay Science, the demon questions us and we are supposed to reply. This means that we are involved as individuals and that the problem of the eternal return isn't just about the universe, but rather our own personal life. If we actually face for a moment the question of the demon, we realize that what is being involved is our unique existence. The idea challenges us to live authentically and take full responsibility for our choices, knowing they may echo eternally. Nietzsche calls the eternal return the heaviest burden, or in German, das schwerste Gewicht. Why? Because it forces us to confront the consequences of every decision and the meaning we assign to our existence. In a linear view of the time, we might console ourselves by thinking that mistakes, failures, and regrets can be left behind as we march forward into the future. The eternal return, however, obliterates this illusion. If life repeats endlessly, every action takes on an infinite significance. Each decision echoes forever. Each joy, each sorrow must be embraced not once, but eternally. The question becomes, can you live your life in such a way that you would not only accept its repetition, but welcome it, and not only once, but forever? Another important point about Nietzsche's existential perspective of the eternal return is the so-called concept of amor fati, namely the love of fate. From seeking meaning outside life, whether in religion, morality, or some abstract ideal, we have to concentrate on finding meaning within life itself. The eternal return challenges us to embrace life in its totality, to say yes to existence as it is rather than as we wish it to be. Therefore, the meaning of Amor Fati is to affirm the whole of the existence, including its suffering, its chaos, and its imperfections. It means to live as though each moment were worthy of infinite repetition, to shape a life so rich, so meaningful, that you would willingly endure its recurrence forever. By the way, this is just a brief introduction to Nietzsche and his idea of the eternal return. If you are interested in learning more, we are organizing a course on the decline of the West metaphysics, featuring 4 PhD candidates discussing 4 philosophers: Kant, Kierkegaard, Nietzsche, and Heidegger. If you'd like to know more, reach to us and download the free handout via the link in the description. To understand Nietzsche's eternal return and how, through this idea, he attempts to overcome the Western tradition, we need first to look at the foundation of metaphysics. Since its very beginning with Plato, metaphysics had to do with one fundamental object, which through the history was called by different names, namely the being as such. Behind this object, there is implicitly a fundamental relationship between being and time. Not surprisingly, the name of one of the most important philosophy works of the past century, written by Martin Heidegger, is named Sein und Zeit, that is, being and time. How is being connected to time? Well, it's very simple, because to be, so in a broader sense to exist, means to have a certain extension in time. Nietzsche upends this entire framework. In his view, time isn't a structure that holds or predetermines the existence. Instead, he introduces the idea of the instant, a dynamic moment where forms arise and dissolve, where existence is not something stretched out over time, but something that happens fully, completely in each moment. While metaphysics sought to describe the essence of the things, that is, things as they are, as timeless truths, Nietzsche shifts the focus. He asks us to embrace the creative flux of reality, where the key concept of metaphysics, namely the being, loses its predominance. It's important to underline that the concept of being is not simply replaced by another absolute truth, otherwise we would simply go back to the same idea of metaphysics. Nietzsche discards the framework entirely and embraces a new perspective. The key idea is not being anymore, but becoming. But what does it mean? It means that everything we encounter, forms, identities, structures, does not exist as fixed essences. Instead, they are in constant transformation. Every instant holds the power of creation, of becoming. Nietzsche's philosophy is not about explaining what is, but about engaging with how things come into being, moment by moment. Because becoming encompasses all, it's not confined to the linear progression of time. Nietzsche reveals that the before and after we so often rely on are illusions. In truth, each moment is complete, self-contained, and infinite in its possibilities. The present isn't a fleeting point on a timeline, it is the site of all existence. This doesn't mean that Nietzsche advocates for distraction of words, forms, or images. Instead, he asks us to see them for what they are, impermanent, ever-changing, always in the process of becoming. By embracing this fluidity, we can raise new values and meanings, not by clinging to rigid structures, but by celebrating their transformation. This is a philosophy of creation, where the instability of forms becomes a source of power rather than a cause of despair. And this brings us to Nietzsche's eternal return, the idea that everything becomes and recurs eternally. Importantly, this isn't about literal repetition. It's not a cosmic déjà vu where events play out the same way over and over. Instead, it is a metaphysical affirmation of the instant as totality. By rejecting the idea of now that separates past and future, Nietzsche collapses the linear timeline. The eternal return shows us how to think in a unified dimension, where every moment holds the infinite, where every action is an act of creation. This idea has reshaped not only philosophy but also art, literature, and even performance. By asking us to see every moment as a space for renewal and transformation, Nietzsche opens the door to a deeper understanding of reality and ourselves. Thank you for watching this video. I'm Ivan, and this is Empyreon, the Academy of Philosophy and Fine Arts.